Welcome back to World Spotlight TV. Today we will look about the most bizarre dietary requests on death row, and what they ate in their final hours of life. Before continuing, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. The most bizarre requests for a final meal on death row, an intriguing tradition known as the infamous last meal, is observed by criminals serving their sentence on death row in certain states in the United States as well as in other countries where the death penalty is legal. On the day before they are put to death, convicted criminals are given the option of selecting any food and drink they want, as long as it complies with a set of predetermined guidelines. The following are some of the most unusual meals that have ever been documented. Victor Harry Feger was ranked number 20. In 1963, Victor Harry Feger, then 28 years old, was found guilty of kidnapping and murder, and he was sentenced to death by hanging. The young man had one and only one request for his last meal, and that was for a single olive with the pit still inside of it. After he was executed, the olive pit was discovered inside one of Feger's suit pockets. This led to the widespread belief that he had planned to be buried alongside it so that an olive tree, which is a symbol of peace, would grow from his grave. Number 19, Gerald Lee Mitchell. Mitchell had one thing on his mind when it came to his last meal as he awaited his final moments on death row, and that was an assortment bag of Jolly Ranchers candies. Nothing else mattered to him. After consuming the entire bag of candy before facing the final curtain, it is reasonable to assume that the offender had the intention of exiting this world on a sugar high. Number 18, Lawrence Russell Brewer. While some people are certain about the very last thing they will ever consume, others are faced with an overwhelming number of options. In 2011, convicted killer and white supremacist Lawrence Russell Brewer decided to partake in a lavish feast in order to make the most of the extraordinary opportunity that presented itself to him at the time. He asked for 2 fried chicken steaks with gravy and onion, a triple bacon cheeseburger, a cheese omelet with ground beef, tomatoes, onions, bell peppers, and jalapenos, 3 fajitas, a meat feast pizza, a bowl of fried okra, a pound of barbecued meat with half a loaf of white bread, peanut butter fudge with crushed peanuts, and a pint of Blue Bell ice cream, hungry and refused to consume even a single bite of the food. John Wayne Gacy was referred to as number 17. Another convicted criminal who took advantage of the opportunity presented by his request for his final meal was the notorious serial killer John Wayne Gacy, also known as the Killer Clown Pogo. Gacy ordered 12 fried shrimp, a bucket of original recipe Kentucky Fried Chicken, a pound of French fries, and a single serving of strawberries for his last meal. Prior to his conviction, Gacy managed 3 KFC restaurants in his hometown of Waterloo, and it's obvious that he never grew tired of the deliciousness of finger-lickin' good chicken. Number 16, John Spenklink. When it comes down to placing a final order, some people don't even give the food any consideration at all. Spenklink, who had a reputation for being a heavy drinker in the past, declined any requests for special food to be prepared and instead requested a single flask of Jack Daniels, which he shared with the prison superintendent. Number 15, Aileen Wuornos. A single cup of black coffee was all that Aileen Wuornos wanted before she took her last breath in 2002. Aileen Wuornos also made a request for a beverage before she took her last breath. Although it may appear that Wuornos's request was her way of saying, "Don't even think about killing me before I've had my morning coffee," her true motivations were much stranger than what they appeared to be on the surface. In point of fact, she didn't think she was going anywhere for very long because her infamous last words were, "I'd just like to say I'm sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus June 6th. Ricky Ray Rector came in at number 14. Even though Rector had ordered a meal that included steak, fried chicken, and cherry Kool-Aid, followed by a slice of pecan pie, he didn't end up finishing his dessert. When asked why he had changed his mind about the tasty treat, Rector simply responded that he was going to save it for a later time. Timothy McVeigh, number 13 on the list. Before he was executed in 2001, all that Timothy McVeigh wanted to eat were 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. However, it is unknown whether one of the pints remained frozen while he devoured the first, or whether it simply melted into a puddle beside the first one. To tell you the truth, even melted ice cream seems like a very generous punishment for a man who is responsible for the deaths of 168 innocent people. David Leon Woods came in at number 12. David Leon Woods, a man who was found guilty of murder and sentenced to death, was finally put to death on May 4, 2007, in the state of Indiana's Michigan City. Woods had a fairly straightforward request for what he wanted to eat for his final meal. He ordered a regular pizza and bought a whole cake for his birthday, both of which he cut up and shared with his family. Number 11, Thomas J. Grasso. Thomas J. Grasso was not the most intelligent person in the group, and when the Day of Judgment arrived in 1995, his final meal request reflected the questionable decisions he had made in his life. His order included 24 steamed clams, half a dozen barbecued ribs, a Burger King double cheeseburger, 2 strawberry milkshakes, and a can of SpaghettiOs, all of which were to be served at room temperature. In addition, he requested that the can of SpaghettiOs be kept at room temperature. When Grasso's meal was brought to him, however, he was given spaghetti and meatballs instead. Number 10, Stephen Wayne Anderson. Even though Stephen Wayne Anderson was a fairly dangerous criminal, he did have some interesting tastes in food. The man, who was 48 years old at the time of his execution in California in 2002, asked for 2 grilled cheese sandwiches, a pint of cottage cheese, a hominy corn mixture, peach pie, chocolate chip ice cream, and a large helping of radishes on the side. Number 9, Peter J. Minial. Minial admitted to his wrongdoing and made it clear that he was ready to pay the price, but not before he plowed through this monstrous order and stuffed his face with food. He asked for 20 beef tacos, 20 beef enchiladas, 2 double cheeseburgers, a pizza with jalapenos, fried chicken, spaghetti with salt, and a modest dessert consisting of half a chocolate cake, half a vanilla cake, cookies and cream ice cream, caramel pecan fudge ice cream, and a small fruit cake. In addition to that, he consumed 2 large quantities of Coke, Pepsi, root beer, and orange juice in order to wash it all down. Number 8, Velma Barfield. This kind-hearted grandmother who revered her God came to be known as the Death Row Granny. Velma Barfield was the first woman to be executed in the United States in 22 years, and she was put to death by lethal injection in 1982. Before her execution, however, she was given the opportunity to eat one last meal. You might anticipate that Barfield would want something like a cup of tea, a slice of coffee cake, or a fruit scone, but all he really desired was a package of cheese doodles and a can of Coke. But what can you really expect from an elderly woman who fervently practices Christianity but who also murdered 6 people? Number 7, Robert Alton Harris. Instead of agonizing over which takeaway to get, why not combine everything and save yourself the trouble? This is precisely what convicted murderer Robert Alton Harris did in 1992 when he placed an order for a 21-piece bucket of KFC and 2 large pizzas from Domino's, along with a 6-pack of Pepsi, ice cream, a bag of jelly beans, and a pack of Camel cigarettes for good measure. The phrase, "You can be a king or a street sweeper, but everybody dances with the Grim Reaper," is what Harris is most famous for saying in his final moments on Earth. Number 6, Ronnie Lee Gardner. Ronnie Lee Gardner was determined to make his time on death row last as long as humanly possible, and he was not the only condemned inmate who has taken advantage of the opportunity presented by their last meal to make intelligent decisions. He didn't go too overboard on his order of steak, lobster tail, apple pie with vanilla ice cream, and a 7-Up, but he also had another request, to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy while eating, and with a combined runtime of more than 11 hours, this must have been the longest last meal ever. Philip Workman comes in at number 5. Gluttony was the furthest thing from his mind. His final request was for a large vegetarian pizza to be given to a random person sleeping on the streets, but the prison officials refused to comply with his request, and he did not eat anything. Angel Nieves Diaz comes in at number 4. But Angel Nieves Diaz made a conscious decision to decline his final meal. Diaz was given the standard prison fare for Wednesday, which consisted of shredded turkey with taco seasoning, cheese, rice, pinto beans, tortilla shells, apple crisp, and ice cream. Diaz did not eat even that, despite the fact that it sounds surprisingly nice, and in his final words, he criticized the use of the death penalty, describing it as a form of vengeance, but also a cowardly act by humans. Oba Chandler comes in at number 3. His final meal consisted of 2 salami sandwiches on white bread with mustard and peanut butter, a grape jelly sandwich on white bread, iced tea, and a cup of coffee. And since there was so much bread, I think it's safe to say that someone else got crusted. Number 2, Robert Dale Conklin. He ordered filet mignon wrapped in bacon, deveined shrimp sautéed in garlic butter with lemon, baked potato with sour cream, chives, and real bacon bits, corn on the cob, asparagus with hollandaise sauce, French bread with butter, goat cheese, cantaloupe, vanilla bean ice cream, and iced tea. First place goes to James Edward Smith. This convicted criminal made one of the strangest requests for his final meal that has ever been documented. When it came time for him to make his request for his last meal in the year 1990, all he wanted was a clod of dirt. Others have hypothesized that he had the intention of performing a voodoo ritual, despite the fact that the soil was specified to be of the Ricunda type, which is associated with witchcraft. There have been some who have speculated that he did indeed intend to eat the dirt. Because dirt was not on the list of foods that could be consumed according to the regulations of the prison, Smith's request was denied and he was given a cup of yogurt as an alternative, which was, of course, the only reasonable alternative. I sincerely hope you enjoy this video. If you have any requests or recommendations, just leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel.